The best relationships have a foundation of friendship. I truly believe that. I believe that when two people like each other at their core, can really be friends, it enhances and allows the relationship to flourish in ways that those who don't have that element can achieve, okay? And we live in a world where, listen, friends fall in love all the time, all right? It happens every single day. But what I come across is this fear that people have of going from friendship to lover. And I've heard, of course, some good stories, and I've heard some horror stories, right? And I see what people are overlooking or missing when trying to take that next step with a friend. Now, this is not to say any person you have a good friendship with is automatically the man for you or whatever. No. But there are situations where two people genuinely have a connection, genuinely have deep feelings for each other, but they need some help navigating how to go from that space to romantic relationship. So I want to real quick thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video, because I think too many times people view getting therapy and counseling as the thing that you do when things are going wrong, rather than using it as like a preemptive strike. So essentially, it's like how you do premarital counseling. You don't wait till there's a problem. You do your due diligence beforehand to make sure you cover all the bases and ask all the questions so that you guys can walk into that next level on the same page and creating an amazing relationship. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. To get started, just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, and that's Better H-E-L-P, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked by you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. So get 10% off of your first month at BetterHelp, that's B-E-T-T-E-R, help.com/Stephan Speaks. All right, so let's get into this. How can you transition from being friends to lovers? One of the first things you need to do is you need to establish what are the new expectations. So where I see a lot of people stumble in this transition process is that there's an assumption of how we were when we were friends will be how we are in this relationship. So a perfect example is, as friends, I didn't have to check in when I was out late, right? Because we're friends. And sometimes, let's say a guy would assume, okay, well, we're going to be in a relationship now and it's going to be just as free and you know, carefree as it was when we were friends. No, like, no. Now, this is your woman and she expects to know where you are, or she expects for you to, you know, not be out all super late at night and things of that nature, or hanging out in places that you once hung out in. And because this was not discussed, it ends up becoming a point of contention once in the relationship. It ends up creating a lot of conflict, a lot of resentment, and it's an easily avoidable problem. We cannot assume the dynamics of the friendship will completely cross over into a romantic relationship. So we have to be able to sit down with each other and say, okay, what is now expected of me if I am to become your partner? All right. Both sides have to lay that out so we can understand what we are getting ourselves into, if we are willing to provide those things, and then how we want to go about making sure these things stay in place, or these things are implemented and sustained. So you got to be willing to have that discussion. And I think what contributes, or one of the things that contributes to that discussion not being had, is the fear of facing the reality that maybe this isn't what I hope it will be. You know, a lot of people Don't ask questions or don't dig deeper, because deep inside they know the answer, what they're going to find, is going to give them reason to have to, or it's going to give them reason to have to let go. And when you don't want to have to let go for any reason, you try to dodge and sweep under the rug these issues or turn a blind eye, but you know this needs to be addressed. So don't let those fears creep in. Be willing to have those conversations, lay everything out, and be as honest and transparent as possible. All right, so another thing that you need to do when you want to transition from being friends to lovers is to discuss what are the new boundaries, all right? So this kind of goes hand in hand with the new expectations, but I want to be very specific in what we're trying to discuss and address and make sure we're on the same page about. So when it comes to boundaries, again, there's an assumption of, let's say, for example, we used to hang out as a friend group, right? So it's a bunch of us, we're all cool, but two of us in the friend group caught feelings and we want to now move on to a relationship. But the way that maybe, let's say in this case, the guy was very friendly with the girls, well, that's not going to sit well with the now friend that became his lover, okay? And one of the mistakes people make is assuming that this man or this person should know better. Like, why do I even have to tell him what the boundary is? How does he not know? And you can't fall into that trap, because the case can be made that he has been conditioned to thinking this behavior is acceptable, even though, yes, it was done within a friendship environment. He may not understand how that translates to being a problem within a relationship, all right? Not to mention, we don't know how this man was raised, what this man was taught to be respectful or inappropriate, things of that nature. So you don't want to leave it up to him to assume. I always say, when you really want to see how serious a man or a person is about you, it's not looking to see what they get right on their own. It's seeing how they handle when you express concerns and desires to them, all right? Because now that I'm letting you know this is a problem, if you continue to do it, you're showing me you're not serious. You're showing me you don't care, or you're showing me you're not ready for this move into a relationship, okay? But if they are serious about you, they make adjustments. Like, I've seen it happen all the time where people were prepared to walk away from their partner because, again, to them it was, he should know better, but I was able to encourage them to have a conversation, and the man was like, oh, like, I really did not realize this was a concern. Okay, cool. Now I know, fixed. And literally fixed. Never a problem again, all right? Of course, some situations, the guy continues with his nonsense. That's a different story. But the point is, communication can solve a lot. A lot of relationships can be saved with some healthy communication. So discuss what the boundaries are with the friends, with family, with whoever. And it's hitting my spirit, so I have to mention it. This isn't really so much about the transition from friends to lovers, but in relationships in general, I feel the need to mention you have to discuss even boundaries with the man's mother, all right? I've seen too many relationships be sabotaged or ruined because the man does not know how to draw a line with his mother so that she does not interfere and wreak havoc on the relationship, all right? And you as a woman, it would be best for you to get an understanding of how he even views what is necessary or how he should go about it. So this is one of those things where I would say you first want to ask him, what does he think it should be? How does he view that dynamic? And then if he mentions things that you don't agree with, you be honest about, well, I'm a little concerned about that, or I am flat out concerned about that. That's a problem for me. Again, because you just don't want these things to interfere because they weren't discussed. All right? and we cannot assume he will just know better. So yes, boundaries with mothers, with women, with everyone. Another thing that's hitting my spirit, if when he was your friend, he's one of these guys who likes all these women pictures on Instagram, all right? And to him, he's never saw anything wrong with it. That's how he gets down. It's very possible, very easy for him to become your man and think, well, you know I always got down like this, so I didn't think it was a problem. But the whole time it's bothering you. Again, you got to nip it in the bud right away. Before y'all even make the transition over, you got to say, listen, I know you like liking these pictures on Instagram, but I'm not okay with that. So if we're going to do this, are you okay with not engaging with these women online like you used to? And if he's like, oh yeah, cool, no problem. I have no issue with that. All right, y'all good. And if he's not, just got to keep it moving. All right, so here's another suggestion for you, for those who want to transition from friends to lovers, is consider a trial period. All right, so I think one of the things that's lacking from a lot of relationships, even marriages, is a lack of structure. Okay, I believe that too many people are freestyling and going all willy-nilly in there and just kind of leaving it up to chance and seeing where this goes. I really don't like let's just see where this goes. Like, no. Let's have some structure, all right? Let's define how we're going to approach this. And it doesn't mean you can't still have the free flowing of just, going with things or spontaneity. You can still have that, but still include structure in your relationship. So in regards to how it applies here, I feel like because the transition from friendship to relationship requires some adjustment. Again, because how we were behaving with each other, the habits that we may have picked up on while we were friends may now need to change, and we have to get used to being in this new role. I think it's good to consider, okay, well, let's give this 60 days, right? Or 30 days or 90 days, whatever you want to make it. We discuss all these things, we discuss those boundaries, we discuss those new expectations, and we see how it goes. And if we see that after that time period, maybe we're not really fit for lovers, we're better fit as friends, all right, then we can amicably split or go back to our old, friendship, and no love lost, no harm done, no issue. Now, I know that's easier said than done. I know you may have a scenario where one realizes, this ain't gonna work, and the other one's fighting to keep it going. I get that. But I do think that having that trial period makes it easier if we need to abort this mission. You know what I'm saying? We need to step away from what we just attempted to do. And so have that discussion. And of course, if everything goes well, we're like, all right, great. You know what? This has been going really well. We're on the same page. Let's move forward. Now, I know some of y'all might be thinking, well, what if he just plays the role right for those first, let's say, 3 months, but then he switches up on you after? Here's the thing. We can't guard against scenarios like that completely. Like if let me say, the vast majority of situations is not a man being perfect for 3-6 months and then switches up. Typically, there's flaws being seen. Typically, there are red flags, but we're minimizing those. We're looking past that, and we're putting more emphasis on the good. And we're using the good to say, oh yeah, he's been amazing, but in reality, you were seeing some issues that you just did not want to fully address or chose not to, all right? Now, I'm not saying there's never been situations where the dude literally was on point 100% from top to bottom, but again, I just can't honestly say that's the common thing. But the point I want to make with that is you can't always guard against that. But what you can do, and what I always encourage y'all to do, is talk to God. Pray. Ask God. Like, before we move forward, should we be doing this? And I'll get a little bit more into that later, but that's the only real way we can ensure we're not walking into a trap. All right, so let's keep this going. Another thing to do when you want to transition with a man from friends to lovers is to discuss any and all concerns including concerns about his past. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying hold his past against them. I'm not someone that believes in holding anyone's past against them. I believe in people changing, evolving, growing, learning. I believe that, there's so much I think that people don't understand about someone's past. And what I mean by that is there's so many details to the story that if you knew, you would view their past differently. All right. Now, me being a coach, I get the opportunity to hear everything. I always tell you that I got stories for days, okay? And I've seen so much, which is why, let me just share this with y'all, which is why I can never judge someone because I'm a firm believer that we don't always know the full story. And when you hear some of the actual full stories, or at least a good portion of it, then you would see things so differently because you would have more empathy, more sympathy, more understanding. At least I would hope so. At least if you're a decent person, if you heard some of these things, you would. But the point is, there's just so much more to it than just what you see on the surface, okay? So with that said, I'm not saying hold anyone's past against them, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to have your concerns. And if you have them, if that's how you genuinely feel, you need to discuss it because you don't want unresolved or unaddressed concerns to be swept under the rug while getting to this relationship because it's gonna haunt you. It's going to linger on and it's going to cause other different types of problems. So for example, let's just say you've been this man's friend and you've seen him cheat on his previous girlfriends, all right, or a previous girlfriend. And even though you are in love with him and you genuinely feel like he's in love with you and you want to believe he can be faithful to you, you may have this deep concern of, well, how do I know he won't do the same thing to me, right? And that needs to be talked about and it needs to be addressed. And maybe it needs to be a conversation of understanding why he made those decisions in the past. What led him in that direction? Why does he feel like he'll be different now with you? How has he grown from that? What has he learned from that? Because I think gaining that clarity, getting that information can help give you a lot more peace about it. Now, listen, there comes a point where we just have to bring closure to certain things and say, all right, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. If we're going to be with this person, we have to get them a clean slate and make it about us. We can't make it about what happened with them and someone else, unless, of course, what happened with them and someone else has created baggage that they're trying to bring into this relationship with you. So essentially, let's flip it. Let's say he was the one that was cheated on. Because let me tell you, there's a lot of situations where the man has been cheated on before, and now that causes him to be very insecure, or that causes him to be, what's the word I'm looking for? He's overbearing in the sense of he comes off even a little controlling because in his eyes, he's trying to make sure you don't do to him what the last girl did to him. All right, so now I got to make sure where you going and what you doing here and boom, 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 boom. So if that's the case, it's not really about focusing on his past, but it's about focusing on the need for him to heal from it. All right, friend or not, being in love with him or not, him loving you or not, if he has unresolved issues from his past, he needs to face it, address it, heal, release it. The same way you need to as well. But either way, address all the concerns, talk about all these things, and make sure we've cleared the air on everything we need to talk about. All right, so we got a few more to go. So I pretty much just mentioned it, but I want to highlight it a little bit more. So another thing that you need to do when you want to transition from friends to lovers is take time for both of you to heal from your past. Because as I pretty much talked about, I've seen so many relationships, whether it be friends to lovers or just people coming together, co-workers, whatever the case may be, that were sabotaged not because these two people couldn't work. Like truly, they were in alignment in the sense of they want the same things, they really get along, they really like each other, it's genuine, it's real, but they're both battling their past issues. And it's pouring over into this relationship and it's wreaking all kinds of havoc and it's not allowing them to nurture what they have in front of them. And so it's really important to do the work that we need to do. And this is hitting my spirit, so I have to say this. I don't want to say there's never truth to the idea that you might meet someone who helps you with healing, right? You may get in a relationship with someone and that can happen. I don't want to say that's never the case, but that's typically not how it's going to go down. And that's typically, you definitely should not look at that as how you need to, like, it can't be, I'm going to wait here and the right one will help me heal, or the right one will heal with me. Because if you don't heal, you may never receive the right one. If you don't heal, you may not know how to embrace the right one. If you don't heal, you won't know how to keep it. When I say keep it, nurture it, pour into it, cultivate that healthy relationship. You're playing with fire if your mentality is when they come, then we'll fix it. No. So in reality, even if you're not transitioning yet with your friend to lovers, even if you haven't had that conversation yet, let's not wait till then to now try to heal. Let's do it now. Let's take care of business now. But if we're already at that point of discussing it, or you get there and you haven't healed for whatever reason, it's definitely one of those things you want to do before taking that next step. All right? Because I'll say this, when you two are friends, when two friends truly fall in love with each other, their sensitivities to each other are heightened, all right? And if there's any past trauma and baggage, they're going to be so much more easily triggered in a lot of situations. They're going to be, it's easier for their insecurities to come out. I always say when you have a real connection, when you fall in love with someone, that pulls all these things out of you. All right, it's going to expose you on a very deep level. And I might scare some of y'all. And I'm not trying to scare y'all. I'm not trying to deter y'all from moving forward with the person that you have this connection with. I just want to give you the reality of it. And that's the reason why so many run from it, because it's scary in that way. It makes them feel too vulnerable. It makes them feel so emotionally naked, and they're not comfortable with that. But if they were willing to heal first, they would be able to get through that and accept this amazing, beautiful potential relationship that's in front of them. So if you need help with healing, please get my book, Love After Heartbreak. Click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to loveafterheartbreak.com. It gives you the exact steps to healing, not just from past lovers, but from everything in your childhood, in your life that you've experienced, okay? It's going to help you finally reach a true place of peace and happiness. So again, go to loveafterheartbreak.com. All right, so another big one to consider when you're trying to transition from friends to lovers is to make sure you're not doing just simply because you guys have this great chemistry, or you're just very comfortable with this person. So what I'm saying is, I see a lot of people attempt to do this whole go from friends to lovers thing because their mentality is, we get along so great. We have this great chemistry. Now listen, I'm not saying chemistry isn't a wonderful thing to have. I'm not saying that people should not have a level of chemistry in their relationship. I am saying it's not enough. I am saying that two people can get along amazingly well and still not be a good fit in a romantic relationship. This is why I believe in connection, because connection is that deeper level that we need. This is why I believe that you have to have shared values. You have to be able to have great communication, because sometimes people get along great, right? But when they were friends, they were accustomed to the fun stuff. But you have to ask yourself, can we really get deep with each other? Can we really be truly vulnerable with each other? Sometimes that gets overlooked in these types of dynamics. So you got to make sure there's more than just chemistry here. Or some people choose to transition with their friend. We're going to keep it real. don't hate me, we're going to keep it real. Some people choose to transition with their friend because it's like, they ain't no other better options right now. And this guy really likes me, and he's liked me for so long, and he feels safe. I'm saying that's what the woman is thinking. You know, let me give it a try. Or you know what? You feel like he's been such a good guy and good friend that this would be the safe choice for you. All right? Even in situations where you know deep inside you're not really into him like that, you're not really in love with him, but it's like he's such a great guy, and it feels like it would be such a safe choice. And you might have friends and family say, oh, you should give him a chance. You know how much he cares about you, blah, blah, blah. And so you do it for that reason, but let me tell you, that's a recipe for disaster. All right? Because you need a foundation of real love. You need a foundation of real connection. It can't be some, even out of pity, oh, you know what, he's tried so hard for so many years, you just want to give it a try. No, because what seems safe can easily turn into your nightmare. And trust me, there's tons of women right now watching this, or even if they're not watching this, if you talk to them about it, like they've had that experience where they chose a guy they swore would be the quote unquote safe choice. And when I say safe choice, because a lot of people misconstrue that, I don't mean safe in the good way of this person makes you feel comfortable and you can be yourself and you're at ease and they bring peace and safety to you in that kind of loving, wonderful way. No, I mean safe choice in the sense that because you're not really into him like that, let me put it even this way. I think it'll resonate a little bit more. If you're a woman and you've been hurt before, and let's say you've been hurt by a man that you had feelings for him that were on a level of 10, all right? So they were really intense feelings and things went left and you've been hurt. And a lot of women, when that happens to them, their mentality is, I will never let that happen again. And so now, subconsciously or consciously, they will only choose a man who can get them to a level 8 of feelings. So it's like, okay, he's good enough to be with, but you're not really into him like that. And that feels safe because he can't hurt you like level 10 did. All right? If he messes up, because in the back of your mind, you may have a perception of these men are going to mess up anyway. So get with the guy who it's not going to hurt as bad with, right? Or again, you feel like the level 8 will be grateful for having you and therefore won't mess up, won't do anything to hurt you, won't cheat on you. But because you're not really into him, there's already a fracture in this relationship. There's already a disconnect. And that disconnect will eventually manifest, whatever word you want to use, will eventually turn into a problem. And that problem will grow. It can turn into this man turn the tables on you. Like in the beginning, he's all chasing, all into you. And next thing you know, he's this selfish, narcissistic dude that it's all about him and you need to cater to him and he don't care about your feelings anymore like he used to. Like I've seen it go in so many different directions that just wasn't what that woman thought. And that's why I always say the safe choice is usually the wrong choice when we're talking about safe in that context. All right. So make sure this isn't about just we get along or this is just a comfortable, safe thing. You should only be making this transition if it's truly about love and connection. All right. So big one I have to always mention, and I talked about it earlier, but again, let's highlight it real quick because there's a little bit more I want to say about it. When you want to transition from friends to lovers, before you get into any relationship with somebody, talk to God. You got to pray about it, all right? Because sometimes things are not what they seem. And we may be falling into the trap of wanting to believe this could be a good scenario, a good situation, the right relationship, so on and so forth. But the reality is that it's not. Or it may not be time for it, okay? And sometimes our emotions or our minds get in the way and blind us from accepting or seeing certain things. But if we were to step back and pray and talk to God, we would see things more clearly. We could heed the warning signs or we can understand that the timing is off, so on and so forth. But I want to say, I have to stress this. I understand the desire to, when you pray and ask God, to be like, all right, God, if he's not for me, show me a sign. Or if he's not for me, or just remove him from my life. Like, understand women doing that, and there's men who do that. But I think that can be very dangerous sometimes, because by asking for a sign or asking for an occurrence to happen, you're leaving it up to you to interpret what that sign or that situation even means. And we're all human. And, God says, don't lean on our understanding, lean on his. So if you're relying on your ability to interpret that moment, that sign, well, understand you may interpret it wrong. And not out of, ill intent or anything like that. It's just human error, because we don't understand on a deeper level what that actually meant, if it meant anything, because some things are just life that happens, right? So to me, even if you're going to ask for a sign, even if you're going to ask for God just to make something happen, you want to then go back. If let's say you ask for God for a sign, like there's one that's happened a lot that I'll use as an example. A woman might pray and say, okay, God, let me know if I should stop talking to this man, if I should let him go, show me a sign. They end the prayer. This literally has happened tons of times. The woman ends the prayer. Once she ends the prayer, the phone rings. It's the man calling her. So the woman thinks, oh, that's God saying I should be talking to this man. That's God saying, hold on to him, right? But that may not be what it is. That might have been the devil whispering in his ear, give her a call right now. Let's fool her, all right? Like, you don't know what's going on, okay? So that's an example of, if you're going to assume that that was the sign from God, then go back to God and confirm that. Go back and pray and say, God, was him calling me now your sign to me that I should be dealing with him? Ultimately, I'm no biblical scholar, whatever, but I'm a firm believer that you can hear that answer within your spirit, and that's what you should be aiming for, all right? Because that is where, to me, it's the purest form of communication, all right? It can't be messed with from the outside. It's within, and I think that's how we have to go about it. So that is my opinion, just putting it out there, encouraging with it. But ultimately, I just want you to end up where you belong. I want you to experience an amazing, wonderful relationship, and I pray you truly receive that. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on the strong signs a man is hiding deep feelings for you. But I know for a lot of women, one of those fears is, I don't want to lose my friend. And the fear of, if I make you my man and it doesn't work out, now I lost my man and my friend.